Next up on the show, let's take a look at the COVID-19 situation in Russia. Now, more than 221,000 people have tested positive for novel coronavirus in the country. 2,900 people have lost their lives. Amidst the rising number of positive cases, the Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a relaxation in lockdown restrictions. The non-working period imposed to limit the spread of the virus will now be lifted from Tuesday, that is today. The announcement comes on a day when Russia reported more than 11,000 new coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours. Putin justified the decision to open the Russian economy by saying that the country used the self-isolation period to prepare its healthcare system. He also said that bringing the economy back to normal was in the interest of all.
Starting from tomorrow, 12th May, the national period of non-working days will be over in all the country and for all sectors of the economy. But the fight against the epidemic is not over. Its danger remains.
Well, let's now take a closer look at the coronavirus outbreak in Russia. Now, it is the fourth worst affected country after the US, Spain and UK. Since May 3rd, Russia has also recorded more than 10,000 positive coronavirus cases each day. In the last 8 days, the country has reported 85,634 positive COVID-19 cases. Now, despite the worsening situation, people in Russia are expected to end the self-isolation period and show up at work tomorrow. In his televised address to the nation, Putin said that the lockdown measures will be tailored according to the local needs. And WION correspondent Lucy Taylor is now joining us live from Moscow for the very latest on this. Lucy, thanks for talking to us. Now, the number of cases continue to rise in Russia, but like most countries battling this pandemic, Putin eager to reopen the economy.
Yes, those cases continue to rise. 10,899 new cases over the last 24 hours, 232,000 in total. It actually brings Russia up to third largest outbreak in the world, perhaps even second once other figures are announced later today. Despite that, though, Russia is moving out of its lockdown very slightly. So the President Vladimir Putin said that the non-working period of the last 6 weeks would now be over. That means that the default is not going to be people off work. People can now return to work, particularly in those sectors that are important and it's safe to do so. So construction, for example, and agriculture, people particularly being encouraged to go back to work. However, it's not uniform across the country. Vladimir Putin has given significant leeway to the different regions to impose those restrictions differently because, of course, this is an absolutely huge country geographically, 10 time zones across. So it's possible that the outbreak will be at different stages in different places. And for example, in Moscow, the restrictions here had already been extended beyond today. So nothing changes here, ostensibly, despite Vladimir Putin's announcement. However, it does seem, though, that some people are taking it as a signal that it's time to get moving again. Anecdotally, more people out and about on the streets here in Moscow today. After the announcement yesterday, the web company Yandex has released an index over the pandemic of people being out and about on the streets, and it's recorded more people today than previously. Perhaps because of that announcement from Vladimir Putin yesterday, perhaps because of the feeling that they ought now to be going back to work to help the economy.
Right. But Lucy, we're getting information now that there's been an executive order signed by the president just a few minutes ago, which has now, I believe, extended the measures of the restrictions, the lockdown restrictions, into the future as well. So certainly a change of position there by the president.
Well, Vladimir Putin said that the economy is important, but he wants obviously wants the illness to be contained, wants to avoid a second outbreak, so a second wave of the epidemic. He warned Russians that it would take some considerable time for the restrictions to be lifted in full. He said that it won't be for a long time before things like mass events are brought back in, and he particularly spoke to those with underlying conditions and those who are over 65, asking them to stay indoors, continue to shield themselves. He's announced some new measures to help people, businesses and families who've been particularly affected by the downturn of the economy. But he said that unemployment here in Russia has more than doubled over the time of the pandemic, and he was very keen to see that that didn't continue. The Russian government is also really keen to stress that they say the outbreak is under control despite those rising numbers. So the total number of confirmed cases that people feel very nervous about is rising very quickly. But the government says that that's due to testing on a much wider scale than other countries. They say they've carried out 5.8 million tests in total. And so they say they're picking up cases earlier than other countries would, and that's one reason for the big numbers. But they point to the death toll remaining very low, and they say the number of people needing hospitalisation has been stable for several weeks now. So they say that's a sign that despite the numbers, this outbreak is under control.
Right, Lucy, thanks very much indeed for joining us with the latest there. We will keep coming back to you more for the Russia situation. Thanks for that.